Welcome back to Every Other Carl. I'm Carl, and today I'm going to be showing you how to install an extractor fan. Normally you would think of an extractor fan being installed in a bathroom, but it can actually be installed in a kitchen as well, and one of the main reasons for that is to extract heat out of the kitchen. Your vent fan above the stove will extract grease and steam and smoke from your stove and vent that outside, or if you have one like ours, it's going to filter it and then vent it back into the room. But the heat that gets trapped in here needs help getting out of this room, especially for us. Our kitchen is pretty small. It's about 10 feet by 10 feet, roughly. The extractor fan that I have moves roughly 110 cubic feet of air per minute. That's going to help circulate this size of a room. If you get anything smaller than that, it's really only suitable for a small bathroom. So for this size of a room, make sure you get something 100 CFM or more. If you have a smaller bathroom, you can deal with something under 100 CFM. I'm using this Panasonic Whisper Remodel, 80 to 110 CFM. I'll leave a link to this one in the description. First thing I want to do is figure out roughly where I want to put the fan, and then figure out where the rafters are on either side of that so that I can screw the mounting bracket into those rafters if possible. We used to have a ceiling light right here in the middle of the ceiling. And I know that we have an abandoned wire that goes right to the middle here and then is capped off on the other end in an electrical box. So that's going to make my life easier. I don't have to run a new wire to it. But if I were to do that, that's not so hard either.
My stud finder helped me find where the joists are, and I cut a small exploratory hole to find my wire and figure out my placement.
Alright, I like the placement of this hole, and I did find the wire that I have up there in the ceiling. So it's a good position. I'm going to cut it now to the perfect size for the vent fan. And this fan actually comes with a template. So in the box, comes with this template that you can just slap up on the ceiling and draw through these little holes, and that'll give you the proper size. If you didn't have that, you would have to measure the size of your actual fan box, and then use something like a square to draw out that exact square on your ceiling, and then you could cut from there. This Panasonic fan comes with a bracket because it is pretty heavy. Sometimes you can actually get away with just using some little pieces of scrap wood right on top of the drywall and then screw the fan into those scrap pieces. But this one's pretty heavy, so I'm glad they provided this bracket.
I lined the template up along one joist and used my rotozip tool to cut out the full-sized hole.
Alright, the hole is cut to size. Now I'm going to use this bracket and screw it into the joists on either side of that hole.
The bracket goes into the hole and then extends to bridge between the two joists. I simply used 4 screws straight into the joists.
Alright, the bracket is in place. I do have my wires here. At this point I could run wires through to the switch if I needed to, but also if you're just replacing this fan, you'll probably already have a vent tube up there. This fan actually comes with either a 4-inch or a 3-inch connector. I have a 4-inch tube here. If you didn't have access to an existing vent tube and you have no access to your attic, at this point you'd have to go straight up, cut a hole through your roof, and then go from the outside of the roof, finish the vent on the outside there. But for me, I do have some attic access, and I'm not going to be venting through the roof. I'm going to be venting through the gable. I'll show you that process later. But for now, I'm just going to take my 4-inch tubing and I'm going to stick it up in there, and then later I'll be connecting this to that outside vent. Let me take you up here. So you can see up here, we have direct access to the roof. If you needed to, you could drill up through there. But like I said, the gable is over on that side, and I'm gonna be venting right through there. So at this point, we're gonna install this part of the fan. This is the exhaust vent, and over on this side, that's the electrical box. I'm going to come right down through that top entry point into the electrical box. I just have to pop that out with a screwdriver. There's going to be a white and a black wire and a ground. I just have to connect those to my existing wires. And then from there, I'll screw this piece into that bracket that we already installed, and then we can move to the next step.
This fan kit doesn't come with the vent tube. You'll need to buy that separately. I bought this 8-foot tube at Lowe's for about $17.
Now I know there's no power in this line, but I'm going to test it anyway. It's always good to be safe. There is no power in here. These are really handy. They just tell you if there's power in a line or not. I can leave a link to this one in the description. Like I said, white, black, and green. Green is the ground. You just hook those up. If you've ever hooked up like a ceiling fan or a light or an outlet, you're probably good enough to hook this up. If you're not, I definitely caution you to be careful because electrical work can cause fires. It can be dangerous. So if you're not confident with how to do this, you should probably get somebody to do it for you.
This fan costs about $130 on Amazon or at Lowe's or Home Depot, and like I said, I'll leave a link in the description.
All right, most of the hard part is done from down here. So now I just have to screw this piece up into that bracket with 2 included self-tapping screws. Those are going to go in, and then the body of the fan is going to slide right up in place, and we'll attach that.
Most extractor fans work similarly, but I do like how this Panasonic is designed, and it slides into its bracket very easily.
All right, so these 2 go right into that bracket, up above it, above the drywall. And those 2 you don't have to worry about because this outer flange of the fan has big enough holes to accommodate those, and they're not gonna get in your way. So right now, all we have to do is take this plug and go ahead and plug it right in, just like that. And the fan is connected to our wiring on the box on the outside there. And then we just connect our grounding screw into this hole. All right, now the last step here is to just put the cover in place. It has these 2 little mounting springs. You stick them up in there, and then they hold them into the ceiling. And I'm just running that off of the switch that's over here on the wall. All right, it's working. So right up here is where I'm going to have the exhaust vent coming out. I'm going to go inside the attic and drill a hole to the outside just as a guide. And then I'll come out here with a hole saw and finish it off. All right, here we are in the attic. That is the vent fan. It's coming up here. It's going to go right out the wall, right about there. And it is blowing nice and strong. It's honestly way cooler air than is up here right now, but we're gonna vent it outside. All right, we're out here and found my pilot hole. It is right there. So I'm gonna use my hole saw, drill a hole right through there.
I'm using an Imperial brand 4-inch louvered vent kit with an animal guard. This one is marketed as a dryer vent, but it works great for this purpose as well. I'll leave a link in the description. I added a healthy dose of silicone caulk to make sure no bugs or water could get in or around the vent, and then I pulled the vent tube through the hole. I really should have done that first so my hands didn't get covered in silicone. I then connected the louvered vent pipe to the tube using some foil tape. I could have used a pipe clamp, but the foil tape will hold just fine for me. After a little more silicone, I used 4 exterior screws to fasten it to the wall sheathing.
And there we go. The vent fan is working. This fan has a super quiet start. You just turn it on, and it has incredibly quiet motor. It takes a little while to spool up, and that's intentional. It makes it extra quiet. All right, so I've had the extractor fan up for a couple of weeks now, actually, and it really does help in here. On a really hot day, you can turn that on, and in a few minutes, it's gonna start cooling down the kitchen. Also, if we have, the extractor fan going above the stove, it's not just pumping hot air into the room and leaving it there. That extractor fan can pull a lot of that out of the house. It really does help. So I think it's a great idea to put it in here. The install is exactly the same as if you were putting it in a bathroom, and definitely you need to put it in a bathroom for steam extraction and all that. If you have any questions or comments, please leave it in the comment section below. If you like the video, please subscribe. And until next time, I'm Every Other Carl, and I'll see ya.